Thank you for downloading the School of Morton podcast. And before we get started with today's episode featuring our guest Austin Idol, let's go back to last week when Ricky Morton discussed WrestleMania 14. We traded stories about The Undertaker's manager Paul Bearer and the tennis racket man Mr. Jim Cornette. Like me, Paul Bearer was a big man. He was very rotund, liked to eat, just how it was. But he told this story. It cracks me up still. He said every single time in catering that he got a big old piece of chocolate cake covered in icing. I'm talking a massive piece of cake. Vince McMahon would walk by and talk to him, oh, you going to eat that?
Oh, yeah.
That's what you really need, big boy,
You know what? I seen him walk by Jimmy Cornette, and he grabbed Jimmy Cornette's arm. He goes, "Oh, my God, not one bit of athletic ability. What are you doing?" He said, "I just felt jello on his arm." And I'm standing there and I'm dying. I don't know what to say.
It's classic. That episode, among many others, available in the archives at rickymorton.podbean.com, also at iTunes if you'll search for School of Morton. Other past episodes include us sitting down with the Taskmaster Kevin Sullivan, the legendary manager of the Four Horsemen, J.J. Dillon, and more. It's all there in the archives. And the show is free. We appreciate that. We appreciate you listening. Want you to check out ProWrestlingTees.com. Search for Ricky Morton. Several options of Rock and Roll Express shirts available there. Also, collarandelbowbrand.com. And encourage you, tweet us this week at Scotty is on, at Real Ricky Morton as well. Also, Facebook at Scotty on the Radio, Facebook at The Babyface Ricky Morton, and Facebook at School of Morton. Keep in touch. Send us your questions. Next week, we're going to talk with Wildfire Tommy Rich. Welcome to the School of Morton podcast. I'm Scotty Campbell with one half of the legendary Rock and Roll Express, Ricky Morton, Hall of Famer, WWE Hall of Fame, NWA Hall of Fame, and others too. Hello, Ricky.
Well, hello there, Scotty. Man, we're going to have a wonderful guest that's coming up later on today, but man, what a week I've had.
Yeah, where in the world have you been anyway?
Well, me and my wife went on a little love boat cruise.
Woo!
But we come back, but man, when you're gone, you miss all the good stuff. I've watched the tapes and seen some of the matches. We had a show here at the School of Morton, which is always great. And this goes for any independent wrestler that's out there. This is what we love doing. This is what I love doing. This is what I'm about. And to see these kids come out here and see how much they have progressed, and wow, and actually just tore the house down. And that's not just one match. That was every match. Even from our little kids on up to the big, to the older ones that have been here for a while. And see, everybody's got to understand that. Here at the School of Morton, we do not put nobody over anybody else. And I mean judgmental when you walk through the door. I don't care if you've been wrestling, if you're Ric Flair. When you're at my school, we're all the same. And that's just the way it is. I get a little criticism every now and then about our young kids, but you understand young kids have dreams too. And here at the School of Morton, we change lives. Not only make dreams come true, but change lives. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a teacher. But, to make them understand how important your education is and everything, and how they do good in school just to come to the School of Morton. Man, that's a big thing. And gosh, I love seeing this and seeing how all my kids, man, from the first match till it was over. If you want to see a great show, come to the School of Morton, because I promise you will see a great wrestling show.
I was here for that show. It was really great. And I want to ask you here. Now, you talk about these kids. We're talking about different ages. For those that haven't seen and don't know, just how young are some of these kids?
When Jungle Boy started here, he was probably 8 or 9 years old. And here you go. This is a business that I've been in all my life. And sometimes I just look over and ignore it. Some people try to say bad things. But guys, you're just jealous. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. These kids are really great. And Scotty, you've seen them. The look in their eyes. We're going to have school here later on. And when the guys walk through the doors, look at them. They're anxious. They look so forward to coming here, 3 times a week. And it's great. And I can see that. And that's what makes my job easy. And it's hard, especially I'm out on the independent circuit a lot. And I try to tell these guys, man, please come to the school or go to somebody's school that knows what they're doing, not just anybody. This is what we've done all our life for 44 years. And it's not what you do, it's how you do it. How to put a match together, how to tell a story, how to go out and from the start and to the end, how the people on the edge of their seats. This is what we do. And if you want to be a professional wrestler, because I have, Scotty, I've been at some shows, and Lord and behold, I'm glad you're listening. And I'm not here to knock you. I'm not here to talk bad things about you. But if I approach you and I say that, it's because I want you to learn. I want you to make my business better. And if you can, if you just go out to the ring and think that it don't work that way. That's the reason, the fans don't come back. And the fans here, School of Morton, man, we starting to run outside of School of Morton because we're getting so big here, and we're really doing good at it. And I appreciate that. A lot of hard work from James Strange, Lisa Strange. They put in a lot of work, because I'm on the road a lot, and I just want to thank everybody, my trainers, and gosh, we have so much fun here.
And you've got a stacked weekend coming up, too. Rock and Roll Express this Friday, Hickory, North Carolina.
Oh, yeah, but I'll be at Lenore at the card shop there at 3 o'clock Friday afternoon. Robert and I both will be there signing autographs, Hickory, North Carolina, Cleveland, Ohio on Saturday night. Man, you get a chance to come out and see us. So we'll be coming in. Then we'll fly back into Charlotte that morning and be in Burlington, North Carolina. We'll be there Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock, man. But looking forward to it.
Rocking and rolling everywhere.
Rock and roll all the time. That's what.
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. All the info, Facebook at School of Morton if you want to learn more about where you can see the Rock and Roll Express together. Also, you have action your students do this Saturday and Sunday, November 11th and 12th. Saturday is live in Knoxville, Tennessee at Lost and Found Records, 3710 North Broadway in Knoxville. And they're going to be back at the school, Chuckey, Tennessee, Sunday, 5 p.m. It's almost like the action never stops.
Oh, it never stops. In our business, it don't. Gosh, I remember when I first started out when I was, really, people don't know this. I had my first match when I was 16 years old, Mobile, Alabama, against Ricky Fields. That was promoter at the time, son, Lee Fields. He was just breaking into business. It seemed like yesterday. Time goes by. So I guess when you're having fun, it always goes by fast.
We received a review this week. People subscribing, of course, to the podcast on iTunes and Podbean and Stitcher, TuneIn, all these places. You can check it out. We've got past episodes with Kevin Sullivan, J.J. Dillon, and a lot of other action for you to hear there. Free, just search for School of Morton. But one of those reviews came from Todd. He says, never forget, I played football at Concord University in Athens, West Virginia. Had a small wrestling show on campus, and great names like Beautiful Bobby Eaton, Heidenreich, and others were there. The whole football team was ringside. My greatest memory is when Ricky Morton came to the ring, he and his son with him, and he had the football team watch his son for him. LOL, awesome. That's from Todd.
Well, Todd, I want to thank you. And understand me, I remember this. It seemed like yesterday that we were talking about how little my son Kerry James is. Now Kerry James is into acting. He does a lot of musicals, and he's getting ready to prepare himself to be a professional wrestler. It's a long road to hoe, but man, I want to tell you thank you. I never forgot that. I believe I was wrestling George South that day. We was outside out there under a big tree, and the lunchroom was up behind us, and man, I remember this like it was yesterday. Thank you guys. Appreciate it very much.
George South, what a character. Some people talk about how he might be the greatest jobber, they say, than, their terminology, of all time.
George is smart. Remember when we was talking to J.J. Dillon about longevity in our match?
Yes.
How you try to get that. George is like that. Actually, I love working with George South. He understands our business. He understands what we do, and George is good at what he does. I can't say nothing about him bad. I don't say nothing bad about nobody unless it's the truth.
Or you're talking about me. I mean,
Yeah. Step out of the room, Scotty. George is a great guy, great worker. And it's not part of being a best jobber. Man, he was great in our business. What he'd done, he was great. We need a lot more people like that in our business. Everybody can't be main event.
while we're at it, and since that question from Todd came from West Virginia, I wanted to tell you this. Friday, November 24th, Madison Civic Center, Madison, West Virginia, ASW, bell time, 7 p.m.
Oh, yeah. You know what? And I'll be there along with Billy Gunn. Billy Gunn will be on the same show that night because when we get through, myself and Billy Gunn, we're going to have to rush down to Winston-Salem, North Carolina because WrestleCade is going on all day Saturday. Greatest stars in our business. It's a great thing they do every year. What a crowds they have. It gets better and better and better. And when that's over, then Robert and I hop in the car together and we head over to Greensboro, North Carolina, the Greensboro Coliseum, the home of Starrcade. And Robert and I will be there that night. Man, we're looking forward. This is what I was talking about. No matter how long you've been in this business, don't ever stop dreaming. Don't ever stop dreaming. You know, here I am, 61 years old, and I'm going to be at Starrcade for WWE. Don't you think I laid in bed and dreamed about this, too? This is what I do for a living. Everybody out there, don't never stop believing. And don't let nobody ever tell you that you can't do something. You work hard enough at it, you will achieve it. You can do it. Only thing standing in your way is yourself.
Dreams still come true, and I'm looking so forward to WrestleCade weekend in Winston-Salem, and also, of course, WWE presents Starrcade in Greensboro.
Cool.
And also want to mention, Saturday, December 9th, Viral Pro Wrestling, Thompson, Georgia, at Sweetwater Gym.
Oh, yes.
Woo, Rock and Roll Express.
You know what, man? We been down there a couple of times, and boy, when we get down there, we get a little feisty. I don't know what. Georgia just does something to me. You know what I'm saying? It makes me feel like I'm 21 years old again. I'm on the top turnbuckles. I'm swinging. I'm doing Hurricane Coronas. I don't know what gets into me. You know?
Contain this man.
Yes.
Well, it's going to be fun, and it's also going to be fun here in just a few minutes when we talk to the Universal Heartthrob, Austin Idol. But I wanted to ask you a question, Ricky Morton, and this is just me picking your brain a little bit. How long do you think a professional wrestling show should be, a live event, in person? What do you think's right? Because, just to tell you the truth, some shows I've been to in my life make my tailbone hurt. Because when we start getting up there about 4 or 5 hours, I love it, but I ain't liking it anymore.
Well, I'm the same way. Because you got to understand, I'm Ricky Morton, and I'm on that show. And 9 out of 10 times, I have to go on last. What I think about, I understand some of the promoters that when you run a show, I understand what all you put into it. I understand that you got a lot of friends. But there comes a time and there's a limit. To me, I think there should be no more than 6 matches. And that's at the most. A 2-hour show, I think is great. If you go to the movie, it don't last 6 hours. I have been at some shows and I'm serious, Scotty. I'm on 18th. Why? Put me on before intermission because what fails there is when you're on the independent circuit, some of the guys don't know. You watch some of the same matches over and over. It's just the same high spot but a different time. Instead of that's why I have a school, is to teach you this. To teach the guys to go out and watch the match. And you don't got to go all night. I see sometimes where they have lost the people and they try and they keep going and they keep going and the further in, the next thing you look out, there's 4 people out in the crowd. So I'm trying to, 2-hour show I think is the most that you need. 6 matches is all you need at the most. That's my opinion. That's not Scotty Campbell's.
I wanted to know, and I'm glad you told me because right. I'm sure other people will be curious about that too. Because, you've been doing this 44 years. I have no doubt that there have been some really long nights as a human where you're saying, guys, come on. The pizza's getting cold over here at the concession stand.
The pizza's getting cold, but gosh, it's 1 o'clock in the morning and I got to drive 350 miles home. Please. I don't mind your show going that long, but put me on third. Okay? That's fine. Put me on third. Y'all go all night if you want to. Wow. I think that was Robert just went by. Okay. Cool.
All right. Well, Ricky Morton, always enjoy the conversation, but we got to get our guest in here. It's just simply time.
Gotcha.
I'm desperately trying to get hold of the school of Morton.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you finally got through to it. This is the moment that you have been waiting for. I'm talking about Rich, Sexy, and Mean, the women's pet, and the man's regret, the universal heartthrob, Austin Idol. How you doing, Austin?
Oh, Ricky, I'm doing great, man. Ricky, what a pleasure being on with you. Hey, rock and roll is here to stay.
Whoa, thank you, man.
The universal heartthrob, Austin Idol is here to play.
Oh.
And I know listen, I know it's your playing field, and I know you got the football, and I just appreciate you letting me get in the same arena with you, Ricky.
Oh, Austin, you know better than that, man. To me, it's just a great pleasure. Here on the podcast with me is a guy that helps me out a whole lot. Matter of fact, he's the one that runs it, Scotty Campbell. Scotty, I introduce you there to Austin Idol because I know you got a lot to ask him and say to him.
We both do. Austin Idol, I want to first thank you for taking time out of your day to be on the show with us. And any advice, before we get in deep into the wrestling discussion, what would your thoughts be on the real estate business across America in 2017?
Wow, it's amazing. It's amazing, Scotty, that you just asked me that question. I really, it is. And I'm going to tell you why in a second. First of all, it's very healthy right now. Very, very, very healthy, and I believe it's going to be healthy for quite some time for several reasons. Rates are low, and it's not like it was when we had the big meltdown, the House of Cards, because now you really have to. You have to provide your job worthiness, your credit worthiness. So before, just about anybody could get a loan, that's kind of what killed the whole deal. It's certainly part of it. So I think it's very, very healthy right now. And today, it's so weird that you would ask me this, guy. Just today, I've started writing. It'll be a booklet. It's going to be a real estate booklet, almost kind of like how I started in the real estate business years and years and years ago, how I started, how I was prompted into it, and just there'll be a lot of stories. And then there's going to be in this booklet, Scotty, the path I took, the things that I did, and how I became successful in it. And it was a niche. It was a niche that I actually carved out. But it really kind of started all accidentally. It kind of backed into the business. But it's a great story, and now that I just kind of started writing it today, it just has taken me back. It's like a flashback. Say, man, God, it's amazing how you ended up doing that. Quitting the wrestling business on a lark with no clue of what I was going to do. To make a living, you still have bills to pay. So it's a heck of a story. It's a really good human interest story, but it's going to be something really cool. The real estate business is healthy, and I kind of carved a niche out for myself and did really, really well. Really well for about 15 years. So,
and I'm glad you're going to be telling people that story. I really am, because a lot of people, a lot of different age brackets, really just trying to find their own way to make it in the economy today, especially if they're not into wrestling and trying to find another avenue, So.
Yeah,
and especially me too, because Austin, this is all I've ever done all my life, and I'm getting older. I was telling Scotty here earlier, we were talking, and I said, I had my first wrestling match when I was 16 years old. And I have been wrestling ever since. I keep saying 44 years, but I forgot a year's passed. So now it's 45 years. And it's sad when it's really, it's the only thing you know. But, being here at the School of Morton, I never thought that we would grow like we have. I just seen you a couple of weeks ago down in Myrtle Beach. And Tommy Rich, and I want to tell everybody, about Tommy Rich's school that he has down there in Myrtle Beach, and I've seen you down there, and anybody that's down there, I encourage you to go. What a great show. I didn't ask you because I was in a hurry, but are you making just a little bit of a return?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
That's cool, man, because if you are, I want to encourage everybody to come out. The guys that hadn't seen you, Austin Idol, I have many times, and my God, one of the greatest entertainers in our business. And I'm serious. I've seen you go through. I'm sitting here looking at a list of questions that people that got a hold of us on the podcast here to ask about. But first of all, I want some people to know some things about Austin Idol. And really, it's not the people, it's me. We had Kevin Sullivan on our show earlier, and I was talking to him.
I'm sorry, Ricky, for that. I'm sorry for that inconvenience. I really am. I'm glad you weathered the storm.
No, but we were talking about Ken Lucas, and Ken Lucas is who taught me how to be a baby face. And I tell people this all the time. They say, Ricky Morton, you're the greatest baby face I've ever been in the ring with, or there ever was. And I said, no, I wasn't the greatest baby face. Ken Lucas was. I learned a lot from him. I listened to him. And I learned a lot, and during that era there, and I wanted to get your answer, because I remember I was with my dad down in the Florida area, and this is when Lee Fields had it years ago, and there's a worker there by the name of Bobby Shane. And, and for some reason, Bobby Shane, couldn't wait to watch him. I couldn't wait to listen to him do an interview.
Yeah.
And I can remember watching him and Ken Lucas go almost an hour in the match one night, and neither one of them threw a punch. And they tore the house down. Lucas did him do his machine gun thing. And we were talking about that earlier with Kevin Sullivan. And a lot of people don't know, Austin, that, you was on the plane crash that killed Bobby Shane. Could you tell me something about that? I want to know for myself, really, because I never asked you about it before.
Yeah, Ricky, it was for me, it was a second chance. You know what I mean? By all rights, I shouldn't have made it out of that plane. I don't know if you've ever seen pictures of what the remnants or what the fuselage, what that plane looked like when they pulled it out of Tampa Bay. But if you look at it, it was just crumpled up. You couldn't hardly recognize that it was an airplane. And if you looked at it, you say, there's no way anybody could have survived it. It was miraculous. It was really a miracle, So, I was definitely blessed to survive it. And, and I didn't know Bobby that well, to tell you the truth, because he had just come into to Florida. And I was wrestling there part-time. I kind of had a part-time gig that I just kind of, it fell into my lap. And it was, I was making a little bit of money in this state where I, grew up in. And so it didn't, my job didn't really matter that much to me because I'd planned on being just on vacation anyway. But anyway, I got a good little gig there. So Bobby came in, and I think he came in from Australia, Ricky, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, I think, yeah. So, he was I think he was they were going to give him the book. They were going to make him the talent coordinator, if you will, but they hadn't done it yet, but it was right around the corner. And so anyway, it was one day that we were scheduled to wrestle in Miami, and we're living in Tampa, like all the guys did. Gary Hart lived in the same apartment building that I lived in, and Gary and I were very friendly because Gary helped me out in my career by getting me booked out of Charlotte into Australia, which was a huge break for me. It really was a huge break for me. And so Gary and I became very good friends. And it was on a Wednesday. We were going to Miami, and I had already booked myself on a commercial flight with Delta Airlines because I just said, you know what, I'm going to, you're paying for your own ticket back then. You're paying for your own ticket. And I thought, you know what, I just as soon just buy the ticket. I won't make any money for the night because it'll all be eaten up in airfare and whatever. But it's okay. I'll save all the wear and tear in my body and fly back the next morning on Delta. So during the course of the day, it was actually it was in the morning. Gary said, how you going to Miami? I said, I'm flying. I'm going on Delta. He said, listen, why don't you, we have a seat open on a plane, private plane. Why don't you go with myself and Bobby Shane, and Buddy Colt is the pilot. And I said, Gary, I appreciate it, but I think I'm just going to go stick with my plan and take Delta. And it was a beautiful day in Tampa on that Wednesday. And I can remember I'd been to the gym and I was laying out by the pool, and Gary came out and he hit me up again. He said, listen, I don't know why you just grab this empty seat. He said, it'll be like $40 or $50 and you'll get home that night because we'll come right back. You won't have to stay over, pay for the hotel room, and you'll be home. And again, I said, no, I'm going to stick with my plan. I'm going to stick with my plan. And it was that third time that during the course of the day, he asked me again, and my inner voice, where you're supposed to obey your inner voice, because usually when you don't, it bites you, And this third time he came back to me, and I thought, oh, what the heck? I'll go ahead and fly down with these guys and come back, be home that night. But I did ask Gary. I said, "Is Buddy a good pilot?" He says, "He's a very good pilot. He's a former Marine, very conscientious, very good pilot." And of course, I was young at the time, so I wasn't smart enough and knowledgeable enough to ask, well, how many hours does he have? Is he instrument rated, or is he just visual? I didn't know those kind of questions. I just didn't know them. And so anyway, we fly down. Everything is perfect. We wrestle at Miami, and everything is fine. And then as we leave to come back, weather's perfect in Miami. Everything is perfect. It's a beautiful night. It's a fall night. It's February. It was February. And as we're right around Sarasota, which is 50 miles south of Tampa. The beautiful stars. Millions of stars. Beautiful night. And Buddy, he's talking to the flight controller there in Tampa at Tampa International, that's where we left from. And the flight controller said, "Tampa's closed. You can't land here because of weather." Now we're only 50 miles away from Tampa, and it's beautiful. Star-filled skies, a beautiful night. And he says, "Yeah, we're socked in with fog." He said, "But you can land at Peter O. Knight Airport if you want to. It's open. It's open." Now, we all know Peter O. Knight Airport down there. It's off of Davis Island. It's all water. There's all water everywhere. And I can remember we have a little discussion there. So, well, what do you guys want to do? Do you want to go land at Peter O. Knight, or you want to turn around and land here in Sarasota, and we'll just rent a car and go back? And I said, I'm all for just landing in Sarasota, and we'll just rent cars and go back. But everybody else they were all for going forward, and I had a kind of a weird feeling about it, but you just think, well, it'll be okay. But it wasn't okay. So anyway, as we're approaching Peter O. Knight Airport, and the weather it's getting worse. It's digressing, and it's going downhill. And pretty soon, visibility's really getting bad. And you've got to remember, Buddy's not instrument rated. He's, only visual. And he's talking back and forth to the flight controller there in the tower. And they know that. This guy knows that Buddy's not instrument, but he says, "Well, listen, I can bring you in." That's a mistake. He shouldn't have done that, right? It was a mistake, I can bring you in. So that's what's going on. And you could cut the tension and anxiety that was in that cockpit. You could cut it with a knife, man. Because nobody's talking. Everybody knows that this is really serious, and it's intense, and everybody's nervous. But my fingers are crossed. Come on, Buddy. So as Buddy's making his approach to the runway of Peter O. Knight Airport, finally, boom, you see the runway lights, the yellow runway lights, and he goes to land, but he's too high, and he had no choice. He had to pull back on the yoke and kind of bank to the left, and he's going to come back around and make a second approach. And as he banks to the left, he's going over a residential. Now we're Derek Jeter in big money neighborhood, Davis Island. He's banking over. Fortunately, we didn't. If we'd have crashed in the residential area, I'm sure we would have all been dead. But he didn't. So anyway, he's banking, and now he's back over the water. But now it's black. You can't see anything. And the next thing I know, I'll never forget. But the next thing I know is that I see white caps in the bay, right? It's white caps. You know what white caps look like.
Yes, I sure do.
Yeah, there's no mistaking what they look like. I see white caps, and as soon as I saw the white caps, when I saw them, it triggered into my brain that you're dead. It was just like that. It really was. It's like you're dead, and you didn't even get a chance to say goodbye to anybody. Family, anybody, And about that time is, boom, I got that in, you're dead, bang, boom. And then everything kind of went into, you ever had a dream where you dreamt in slow motion?
Oh, yes.
Yep.
Okay, so this is what happened. We hit the impact, and everything became like a dream to me in slow motion. And it was like a spinning slow motion, and water was everywhere. I mean, everywhere. The power of the water hitting me, and it really felt like a dream. I mean, if I would have died then, it would have been, I guess, an easy way out, because I would have never really known what hit me. But all of a sudden, the motion, the slow motion, everything stops. I realized, God, you crashed in the plane, but you're still alive. I still have my senses about me. So you've crashed in the plane, but you're still alive, and I'm still in the cockpit. I was riding shotgun. Bobby was behind me. I believe Bobby. I'm pretty sure Bobby was behind. Yeah, he was. Bobby was behind me, and Gary Hart was sitting next to Bobby behind Buddy Colt. But anyway, I realized crashing the plane, you're still alive. That's a miracle in itself. And you got to get out of here and free yourself. And the fuselage, I'm going down with the fuselage. It's sinking, and I'm strapped into my seatbelt. And I'm reaching down trying to get my seatbelt off, because it's a slow submerging process, but I'm slowly submerging. And I had cowboy boots on. And in the passenger seat with the cockpit up front, riding shotgun, you have you have foot pedals. So somehow those foot pedals, my feet got lodged underneath those foot pedals, and it got kind of crushed, and I couldn't get my feet out. And now I'm really fighting, because I know now, oh man, you survived the crash, but you're going to drown. That was my next. Yeah, I think now you can't get out. Now you're going to drown. And I'm fighting like a son of a gun to try to free myself up. I get my seatbelt off, and finally, the grace of God, I mean, my feet just came out of those cowboy boots, and I came up to the surface. So, you're immediately, really, you're in shock. I mean, so you're in shock, but I'll never forget it. Here I am, I'm treading water out in Tampa Bay.
Were you really far off the shore?
They say, I've heard quarter to half a mile. But I tell you, Ricky, I couldn't tell you. But far enough, I can tell you that.
Yes.
I mean, definitely far enough. You're in survival mode now. Your adrenaline's pumping like crazy. But I'm treading water, and the water's choppy, obviously, with the whitecaps. It's choppy, and I don't hear anything but water crashing. I hear nothing. And now I'm thinking, I'm the only one that survived, because I don't hear any voices or anything. And I yelled out, hey, is everybody okay? Everybody okay? Nothing. I mean, nothing. And then I yelled out again, is everybody okay? And then I hear Gary Hart say, yeah, I'm over here. And Gary must have been, I don't know, 25, 30 yards from me. I guess, he got thrown out. Then I heard Buddy Colt's voice, but no Bobby Shane's voice.
Yes.
Yeah, there was never a Bobby Shane's voice. And Bobby went down with Bobby. I got out. Bobby went down with the plane. He never got out. So I don't know if he was killed on impact or if he drowned, because Bobby couldn't swim. And I do know that he was deathly afraid of the water. I made a couple of feeble attempts to try to look for him, but they were feeble. It's pitch black. You can't see anything. You're in shock. So finally, we made our way to finally we just saw the lights of the residential area, and we swam to the dock. And Buddy couldn't stand up because of his legs were really messed up. My feet were both crushed. We got down. Fortunately, it was low tide. If it had been high tide, I don't know. We may all drowned out there, but it was low tide, and Buddy and I were hanging on to this dock, this pier, Doctor's Pier, and Gary got up on our shoulders, and like a bloody monster, he went to the house, pounded on the door. A doctor came to the door, and they called the hospital, and 911 did, and they came and scooped us out of the water.
I know by listening to your voice, it's hard to talk about that. Things in our business that we've done on the road. I've been in a lot of situations, not that bad. I mean, I flew with Ronnie Garvin a couple of times, and gosh, after that, man, I was commercial all the way. But, and I'm sorry for that situation, because not only that, in that crash, he lost one of the greatest minds in our business that went down with it too. But thank you for telling us that story. never really asked you about it before because, you know, it wasn't the right time and the right place. But I think you telling me and letting the fans know, I think it's to understand what you go through to be in our business and what you go through to be now and who you became and all that and to overcome all that, Austin. I mean, that's a lot for me. I may have for you to tell me that.
Well, and the thing about it is, you know, life is a learning experience. You know, it's a learning experience, and I tell you, I learned a lot from that. I really learned a lot from that because at the time, you know, I'm a young kid still, you know, and I'm chasing my career, and you know, after I really did all the rehab and you know, kind of got my head back together a little bit, you know, I realized that, you know, life can end real quickly. You know, it's like a light switch. You can turn off the switch and then all of a sudden it's all over. So it really helped me kind of get, for me personally, prioritizing what was most important to me. And really, it kind of goes back to, you know, when I landed that Memphis gig, you know, which was a part-time gig, I was really lucky to be able to sustain that thing for really about 10 years on and off part-time, you know. So for me, that was perfect.
But, you know, I was there in Memphis when you I was just a kid, man. You and I got to say that, boy, you and Lawler, man. Some of the greatest matches. You know, you always get to who's the greatest person you ever wrestled, who ever did this and did that. You know, it's just a trip downtown. All the guys are great. Every one of them are great. But for some reason, Jerry Lawler could tell the best story in a wrestling match. It was great, but, you know, in the Memphis Coliseum days, and it's hard to explain this, especially when guys try to ask you at that time in that era when you sold towns out every week. I mean, you didn't, and every night. You didn't come to a town once a year. You were in Memphis every Monday night, Louisville, Kentucky, Evansville. And I can remember, man, all the matches that you and Lawler had and the money y'all drawn. And, you know, even the match with the hair versus hair.
Oh, yes, that was a big one, steel cage.
You know,
yeah, I mean, I was a fortunate guy. I mean, I got a break to go in there, and Rocky Johnson. I saw Rocky Johnson in the gym one day down in Tampa, and I had just come from working in Detroit a little bit. Really, I'm still early on as Austin Idol, and I saw Rocky and I were buddies, and I saw Rocky. He said, "Hey, you know, I bet you'd really do good up in Tennessee." I said, "Hey, I worked for Nick Goulas one time when I just started." I said, "No, thanks, Rocky." He said, No, this isn't Nick Goulas." He said, "This isn't Nick Goulas. This is Jerry Jarrett."
Before you go into that Jerry Jarrett, where I started at was for Nick Goulas. And, man, and I'm telling you, I think that every person in our business needs to go through that journey at that time to work for Nick and George. Oh, my goodness. I mean, nobody even understand what drama really was and what Dad said and getting robbed. I mean, I'm telling you, gosh. All right. So I've been down that road with Nick Goulas, buddy. Okay.
Yeah, all the stories are pretty consistent about Nick Goulas, so they sound like they're pretty truthful, don't they?
Oh gosh, well, they don't sound like it. When you're there and you know about it, it really is. Gosh. You know, it goes to show you that if you're pushed in our business long enough, they'll believe in you, you know, because God Almighty, I mean, I can't say that he drove consistent money, but I seen Nick just run George down everybody's throat so bad that finally all the boys got mad and all the fans did because you could see.
Daddy says go down.
You're right, you know, and
that sounds exactly like a quote right there, actually.
You know, and I tell you a good quote.
Daddy says go down. What are you talking about?
You damn right he did that. I remember a guy told me one time, I asked him a question, and I said, "Man, who smarted you up to our business?" He said, "I watched George Goulas work." Yeah, so.
Wow.
Is that horrible?
Amen, brother. Yeah. Amen, man.
It's all true, apparently. I mean, every time. So, back to that hair versus hair match. Jerry Lawler versus Austin Idol. And Paul E. Dangerously, now known as Paul Heyman. How was that pairing made at that time?
Yeah, that was my doing. Yeah, that was my doing. I was obviously in Memphis, and Paul was just kind of running around with a telephone in his hand, you know, a New York City boy, and very, very personable, very congenial, and we kind of hit it off pretty good. And I said to Lawler one day, I said, I like this kid. I like him, and I said, why don't you put him with me as my manager? Because I hadn't had a manager forever and ever and ever. I think I was just in the very beginning with Jimmy Hart, First Family, and so I'd been solo for so many years, and I thought, well, it'll give him a break, kind of freshen me up a little bit too, something a little bit different, right? So, I remember Lawler saying, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm sure." So they put him with me, let me be my manager. So I went to Paul, and I said, "Hey, you're going to be my manager." And of course, he was stoked about it. That's how the pairing happened. I brought him on as my manager.
Wow. Didn't know that
Yep.
part of the story. I love getting details, Austin. I wanted to also
Yeah.
know more about your time in the WWF with Vince Sr. How did that conversation go? How did you get there? And how did it feel working for him?
Okay. I was in Australia and working, Jim Barnett was the promoter and owner. Jim sold the territory to Eddie Graham and Buddy Fuller. He asked me as a favor to please come back. We're going to take a break at Christmas break. Please come back to help them with the transition. So, I knew it was going to be a disaster. I knew it because Australia at the time, you had Mark Lewin, King Curtis Iakea, Gary Hart, Tiger Jeet Singh, Brute Bernard, oh my God, Bulldog Brower. Spiros Arion. You had all these really stars. These guys were the elite stars, some of the elite stars in the wrestling business. And so anyway, I said, okay. And because I knew they're bringing in a new crew, and this crew is not going to be able to follow the crew that some of the guys I just mentioned. So I came back. First week, everything had been kind of set up for, to come back. And first week, everything, we went around and everything was sold out. The second week, the houses dropped in half. And I knew the handwriting was on the wall. So after the second week, I gave my notice. I gave a 2-week notice, and I gave a 2-week notice. I knew this was going to be a disaster. I'm getting out of here. I called Jim Barnett, and I said, because Jim had given me his number, so you call me if you ever need to. So I called him, and I told him, I said, look, Jim, I hate to really, leave so quickly over here. I said, but it's bad. I said the houses have just dropped. Dramatically. So I just want to let you know I'm giving my notice. And he said, well, where are you going to go? I said, I have no idea. Where do you want to go? And immediately I said, New York. He said, I'll call Vince. He said, call me back in 5 days. I'll be at the Surf Rider Hotel in Honolulu. 5 days later, 5 days later, I call the Surf Rider Hotel and ask to speak to Mr. Barnett, James E. Barnett. He picks up the phone and he says, you're booked with Vince. You start TVs there in, I think he said March. I left. I went back to Tampa. Went up back then. I think you would go in and you would do TVs and you'd go home and you go away and then you come back 3 weeks later and you do another round of TVs. And Vince Jim got me booked in there, and Vince and I, we really hit it off real well. In the beginning I was there. I was just kind of, I was underneath. But one day I was in Philadelphia. We were doing TV in Philadelphia. And Lou Albano, the captain, the guiding light, came over and said, hey, the old man wants to see you. And Vince, that's what I thought. Vince, something's wrong here. So Vince was way over on the side. It was cold outside. He's got the overcoat on. He looks like he's right off the cover of GQ. Everything's perfect. The silver hair. It's perfect, So I go to him. And said, yes, Mr. McMahon. I said, Lou said, do you want to talk to me? He said, yes, I do. He said, I'm going to start making you some money. From here on out, I'm going to put Lou Albano as your manager. Lou's going to be your manager. I'm going to start making you some money. And I'll never forget this. And, his whole deal, this senior, his whole deal was his word was his bond. And if he said it, you could bank on it. That was his mantra, So, anyway, he said to me, he said, listen, I just want you to know. He said, we're both Irish, McMahon, McCord. So you got that Irish thing going,
Right.
And I wasn't causing any problems. I was just doing my job and working as hard as I could. He said, I just want to let you know you'll have a job here the rest of your life if you want it.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly what he said. He did put me with Lou. My money shot up. I mean, it's all relative, but still, it was 1973. But my money shot up pretty darn good, where I could, save some money, And after about 11 months or so, I decided, this isn't for me.
Okay.
Yeah. It
Was it just the northern part, bit up north, or was it?
It was an ice storm, Ricky. It was an ice storm one particular day where everything was crystallized. You know how the wires or everything crystallized. You go out, you can't even hardly walk, much less get in your car and drive to a town. I thought, man, this isn't for me. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'll probably I'm going to give my notice and go to Florida and hang out, see what happens, And I gave my notice to Vince Sr., and he was a little on the shock side. He couldn't believe it because everybody was trying to get in there, and no one was trying to get out. But like an idiot, I give my notice, and he said, "Well, that's okay. I get it, and I understand." He said, "I just want you to come back and do the right thing, so I'll book you." He brought me back for the couple of the gardens and some of the big buildings, and that was it, And I really, I don't know if that was the reason I never really had an opportunity with Junior or not. I have no idea. Could have been, maybe not. I don't know.
I don't know about that. I did the same thing. I went up for Vern Gagne. Our run was over. NWA, WCW, had big things. So Vern sent me and Robert up there here, and I'm serious. I get off the plane, it's 10 below zero in Indianapolis, snow on the ground.
Yep.
So deep you got to climb the tree and use a bathroom. And then it was so much going. And I've met with him, and he goes, "We're going to do this." I said, "Well, that's great. I'll be back in April or May." And he looked at me like I was just absolutely stupid. He goes, "No, this right now is when our time is good. Summertime, we're no good."
Yeah.
And Wahoo's the one that got me to come up there to meet with him and everything. And I said, "Man, Wahoo, I love you, buddy, but I'm going back home."
Yep.
I don't live in 30 below zero weather. I'm not going to fight these storms. I just start back down there down south. Cornette. It's when he first started opening up Smoky Mountain Wrestling. And, we had a heck of a run here, so I didn't regret anything about it. Sure didn't.
In terms of day-to-day, when you were working with Vince McMahon Sr., was he extremely hands-on, or was he a big delegator?
Well, he wasn't there that much. I mean, he stayed in Florida, down around, I think, Fort Lauderdale. I mean, he'd only come in for the big ones. He'd only come in for New York, for the Garden. You really didn't see him much. So everybody else, was really running the operation, Gorilla Monsoon and Angelo Savoldi and Arnold Skolin.
How were Gorilla Monsoon and also your manager, Lou Albano, how were they? Did you spend any time with them away from the arenas, away from the shows?
Yes. Not so much with Monsoon. Not so much, but he had a few parties, over at his house and on the Jersey Shore during the summer. But with Lou, I was with Lou. Gosh, I mean, on a regular basis. I mean, Lou would make those towns, and he didn't have to make them. Like he really, Lou only really had to make the big clubs, the New York and Boston and Philly and Baltimore, Washington, he didn't have to make the smaller towns, but Lou always made them. He wanted to be out there. So, I mean, I had an opportunity to be around Lou a lot, and it was an education. Lou was a brilliant guy, and he was a brilliant guy. I was lucky to be around those guys. They had all that knowledge, and they were willing to help. They're willing to help, and helping is a good thing anyway. I mean, why not help each other? So, here I had Lou as my manager, George the Animal Steele's there. You got the Grand Wizard, Fuji and Tanaka, Lonnie Main, Moondog Main. I mean, the talent, Don Leo Jonathan. I mean, and the way the guys would come in. Morales was a champion. Actually, I got a pretty good little run with the champ, with Morales. I didn't get the big clubs, but I got some of the decent-sized clubs and made a little money with Pedro Morales.
Were you there with Johnny Valiant?
No.
Okay.
No, Jimmy was before me.
Because I know
Jimmy
had a good run in Memphis too, so I didn't know.
Yeah, he sure did. Yeah, I first met Jimmy in Memphis. He was just really kind of on his way out when I came in.
We have people that know you're going to be on our show today, and we have this fella there that his name is Top Joker Jones, and he's been bugging me to death. He wanted me to ask you, what was your greatest rival you had in Georgia Championship Wrestling? How was it there? And your greatest rival, the most money you made with somebody? Or
gosh, I mean, I had some pretty good runs there. I mean, Tommy was excellent. Had a nice little run with Mr. Wrestling too. We're talking about two guys that are really over. I mean, these guys were over.
And I'm glad you said that. Two guys that were over. You see, in our day, they were wrestling WWE. There was Georgia Championship Wrestling. TBS, 6:05 every Saturday.
Yeah.
Tommy Wildfire Rich was a rock star, and he didn't know it.
He sure was.
But I mean, nobody, even see, Mike, you got to understand, Bobby Eaton, Tommy Rich, Dennis, Terry Gordy, Michael Hayes, Robert. We all grew up together in the business. I mean, we knew each other. Might not have been in the same territory, but we were all friends. We were all together. We were a pack, but we all went our different ways. And I try to tell people, they talk about, I'm trying to tell them about the time. And, times has changed. But at that time, is to understand that how over Tommy Rich was. Gosh.
Big time.
Yes. I mean, dude, he was Hulk Hogan of his time. And gosh.
He was hot. Ricky, you're right. He was red scorching hot, man, when Bill Watts came in and took over as the booker. And I've told the story, I mean, you know how Bill was. I mean, I thought for sure that I'd never get along with Bill. I mean, I really thought never going to happen. Next thing you know, I mean, I've got Tommy Rich in the figure four on TV as Harley races, interfering, got a belt, take my belt up, wrap it around his knees, and break his leg. He has to have surgery. That was a hot thing, man. That was really hot. And then when Vince and Tommy came back, man, oh man, we were rolling, baby. I mean, we were rolling. And Kevin Sullivan, even in the beginning with Kevin Sullivan, Kevin and I had a strong run. I mean, we really did. I think of some of the guys. I mean, I was lucky there. I guess as a bad guy, I think I had an opportunity with just about everybody who really meant something. So yeah, it's pretty good.
Well, that's got you. I was the same boat you in. I never gotten a break in the business until I met Bill Watts. And everybody told me Bill Watts never used smaller guys. But he's seen something in Robert and I. And plus, Bill Dundee was the booker, too. But gosh, man, we went to Louisiana, the same thing. He gave us a break. And I got to thank Bill Watts for that. But he believed in us. And when you got somebody that believes in you, and that's just like you being in Georgia Championship Wrestling with Tommy Rich in wrestling too. When you got somebody behind you that believes in you, brother, the doors are. I mean, it's no telling how far you can go. I always enjoyed your work. I studied our business a long time. That's a lot like a lot of people forgot. I did a thing not long ago at the Performance Center, and they had a bunch of the football players they brought in there to train to be a professional wrestler. And when I'm talking to them, and I asked them, first of all, I asked them about a certain wrestler. They had no idea. But then when I asked them who Johnny Unitas was, everybody, man, they gave me all these long speeches about how great he was. And I said, now you want to be in our business and you know nothing about it? I mean, you need to do. I mean, that's what really gets to me sometimes, man. Do your research. You don't know who Tommy Rich is. You got to be kidding me. You don't know who Killer Carl Cox is. You got to be kidding me. I mean, gosh, makes you rear end want to dip snuff sometimes, buddy. I ain't kidding you. You get so mad at these guys.
If you're, Ricky, if you're going to pursue something, in an industry, it just makes sense. Do your homework. I mean, your homework shouldn't be the last 4 or 5 years, 10 years. I mean, go back, study, do your homework, and start looking at people. I mean, my gosh, you can see so much now on YouTube. I mean, it's ridiculous. And that's a good thing, because you can go way back, and there's some people do. I mean, look at some of the things that Buddy Rogers was doing way back in the 50s. And he was so ahead of his time. It's unbelievable. I mean, it's just unreal. But so much can be learned from just going back and studying. I mean, that's
and
like going to school. I mean, you're studying history. you want to be a history major. Well, you're going to have to study history.
Yeah, that's right. And nowadays, it's like I have one of my kids that he got a break over in Japan, and he does a Bullet Club. I had a show with him not long ago. And I was telling him, I said, look, you had people from Ring of Honor, TNA, and Impact, and we were out on this big show. And I said, look down this hallway here. Tell me what you see.
Yeah.
He had no clue what I was talking about. I said, look at y'all. Every one of you look alike. You dress her right.
There you
You wear
go.
the same stuff. I said, man, you got to create a character. You got to create somebody. You got to be that person and live that person and to become that way. I said, right now everything's just the same.
Cookie cutter.
Oh yeah, I'm at the matches and I'm bored after the second match because I done seen the second match. I done seen that match before the first
Absolutely.
match. And
Absolutely.
but while we're
Same
talking
deal.
here, go ahead and let everybody know what's happening down in Myrtle Beach. That you'll be down there on your next show. Tell them when it's going to be, and I'll.
I'm not going to be there anytime soon, Ricky, but I believe December the 16th is their next event down there, if I'm not mistaken. But I think I'm pretty close. The last time I talked to Tommy, I think he mentioned December the 16th. Me, I've got a few things going on. I've got a pizza shop here in downtown Greenville, Vic's Pizza.
Oh yeah, I just came off a
yes.
cruise. I met so many people from Greenville, South Carolina, and I told them all about. You know what? And all of them knew where it was at. They said they'd been there.
Nice.
So
Yep.
they'd probably be coming in with pictures and all kinds of other stuff here in the future.
Yep.
Okay.
I want to write this booklet on real estate investing. I think it's going to be good. I really think it's going to be good. I got a lot of entertaining stories, and just it's amazing the run I had, Ricky. It's amazing the run I had. And even today, when I started writing it, I thought about man, when I quit the wrestling business back then, it was like the late '80s. I just quit on a lark, just one day. Then I said, I'm done.
Well, you know what though, we can't do that, Austin, because before you really say you're done, I just got to have one match with you to say that I worked with Austin Idol. Can we do that?
Sure, we can. We just did it, didn't we?
Yes, we did. Well, I was there. You know what? It was such a pleasure, man. And thank you guys for letting me come down and be a part. And it's like I was trying to tell you. See, we all grew up together. Not only is Tommy's one of my best friends in the world, and
love Tommy.
Yes, I do. And the only thing I don't like is drama. So, but I love our business. I love what it is, and I still do. I still have the love for our business. You ever get a chance, Austin, if you're up here in the East Tennessee area, please come by. I just want you to see my school, okay? I want to
see it, and you can. I want to see it, and you can help me, teach me how to throw a drop kick.
Yeah,
Throw a drop kick.
Hey, if you can teach me how to talk. Okay.
Yeah, as long as I don't have to get off my feet. If you can teach me that.
Speaking of talking, okay, Austin Idol, I have to ask. I went back and I saw some of these as they happened, but I went back and watched some of those promos back and forth. You and Randy Savage, you and the man who later became Ravishing Rick Rude as well. Any memories on those battles back and forth? And I mean, what incredible, all three of you, incredible performers.
Well, thanks, Scotty. The memories, they're all pretty good memories, to tell you the truth. The talent there was good. The timing was right. And the chemistry was right. The business was right. The wrestling business was really right. You had the moon and the stars that were really kind of lined up. They were aligned. And I think the beautiful thing about the wrestling business then is that when let's say in terms of when you're out there making a promo, hey, either you got it upstairs between the ears or you don't. It's just, you're not reading anything. So you've got to make it happen. You've got to make it happen. And that's the way our business was. And Ricky, those Memphis TV, that was live TV. You got to go out there and you got to rock and roll like the Rock and Roll Express.
Hey, there wasn't a second take, bud.
The real deal.
Yeah, it's a real deal. You got to hit hard. You got to hit fast. You got to make sure people they're watching on that television, and they're scooting that chair up closer to the TV and closer. They want to, man, they're got it, and they're in to it, so you got to sell those tickets, and of course you got to back it up in the ring. But it was just a great time. It really was a great time with all those guys. It was I was very fortunate, man.
Austin Idol, what's your website and where can folks find you today on social media?
Well, they can't. I'm underground now, and my website, it's easy. This is so easy. Even if they just Google Austin Idol, they're going to see Austin Idol's official website. Click, and it takes you to my home page. You'll see immediately the cage match with me and Lawler. You'll see my fitness and nutrition booklet. You'll see my exclusive workout booklet and my merchandise store where they can just click, take you to my store. And it's pretty simple. I mean, just Google Austin Idol. And
and tell everybody about your podcast, too, Austin.
Well, I'm not doing my podcast anymore. I did it for 7 months. I did it for 7 months. As a matter of fact, oddly enough, you'd have thought I had planned it like this way, but Jerry Lawler was my last guest on it, which is kind of weird how that happened, but it just happened. But I did it for 7 months, and it was great. It really was great. I had a real good time with it, and I tried to always spread a nice positive message, because I think we need a lot of positivity in the world today as opposed to a bunch of negativity and doom and gloom. So I really tried hard with that. I think I did a pretty good job with that. So, but anyway, 7 months, time to move on.
But you always do, and then for the people that don't know you, every time I ever met you, such a perfect gentleman. Appreciate you being on our show, Austin.
Thank you, guys.
And whatever you do, we wish you the best. And try to come and see us sometimes. Until I see you again, like all the boys always say, man, be careful, my friend.
Okay, guys, it was my pleasure. I wish you all the very, very best as well.
She said, Rama, Lama, Bama, Lama, rock and roll is king.